Hi everyone, this is Elathera with an instructional video that's going to take you through how to make your very own 3D paper art shadow box. Before we begin, there's a couple different things that you need to have on hand so we can do this craft together. First of all, you're going to need some glue. So any kind of glue will work. I choose to use school glue, seems to do the job for me. The only thing I would recommend is to stay away from what's labeled as a craft glue, specifically ones for scrapbooking, as they tend not to stick as well. You're also going to need something to spread your glue with and a container to keep it in. I have a little plastic tray that I've been using, and the plastic tray is just something that was left over from something I bought. So I keep my glue inside this so it doesn't make a mess anywhere. And then to spread it, I have two different tools that I use. One is just a toothpick. The toothpick is used for finer details and it works well for smoothing in small areas. If you want to use something that's a little bit bigger, you can use just like a strip of cardboard like this. It's a lot wider than the toothpick, so you're going to be able to cover more area as you spread your glue. Also, you may find it helpful to have a pair of scissors on hand in case there's any little snips or things that you need to put on your design. And last but not least, you may find, if you're having difficulty working with some of the smaller pieces, to try using a pair of needle nose tweezers to help you pick them up and place them where you want them. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's first get started by sorting out the pieces that we have. For now, we'll set aside the tissue paper in the background. And before we put anything together, I want to show you what it's going to look like when you lay everything out. This piece that I'm holding right here is the main body for Charizard. Behind it is going to go one of his front claws and his tail. We also have his yellow belly. His left leg. His other hand. Head. And wing. The rest of these are his claws, and they will go underneath his hands so that you can just see the tips pointing through. First thing we're going to do is glue down a lot of the claws. So let's move some of this out of the way. We'll just focus on Charizard's left arm for now. I want you to take your glue, spread a little bit on the back of his orange arm. And then just match up the shape of his claw and add his claws on the back. Do the same thing with his other hand. So put a little bit of glue on the back. And attach his claw. For the feet, you want to glue on the 2 claws and then the 1 single claw on top of it. The claws will sit off of his foot. So if I'm positioning them on his foot in this location, only the top is going to actually be touching. So that's where I'm going to put the glue, along the top. And do the same thing with his other foot. Same thing with the little claws, so just a little dab of glue across the top. And when you position them, you can have it overlapping the other 2 claws that you just put down. Gives it a better layered effect. And to make it look even a little more 3D, once you've glued it down, press your finger on the end and use your other hand to gently peel up his claw. So now it looks like it's coming away from the rest of his leg. Let's work on his tail next. So that involves using the tissue paper. We basically want to have one of each color and make what look like little flames. I'm going to choose to use the red first and make it the biggest because it's going to be in the background. Then orange, and it'll be the medium-sized flame. That way the red will show through. And then yellow, the smallest of the 3, so that you can see the orange and the red behind it. So you can peel this with your fingers, tear it with your fingers. It doesn't have to be any sort of exact shape. You can try to make something that you think looks like flames. Just by tearing the paper, you're going to make rough looking edges. And that is going to help give it more of a flame texture. You can see, compare the size, the piece that I just tore relative to Charizard's tail. And then go ahead and do the same thing, tearing pieces of orange and yellow. There we go. So we're actually going to glue the 3 layers of tissue paper together. And I want to caution you that when you're working with tissue paper, you don't need a whole lot of glue. Just use a little bit of glue, otherwise you're going to have a very sticky mess. And I'm going to put it just on the bottom tip of my flame, where ultimately the glue spot is going to be covered when we attach it to the tail. Another thing with using tissue paper is that you're going to be able to see the glue that comes through. So that's why we want to use just a little. I'm repositioning my flame so it doesn't look like they're all exactly alike sitting on top of each other. And then go ahead and take your tail, put some glue on the back side on the tip. And position your flames so that they're coming just off of the tip. We're going to set that aside for now and switch to creating more of a 3D effect. And we're going to do that by taking the paper and folding it in certain spots to make it look more rounded or more curved. So let's start with Charizard's belly. Holding it in one hand and using your thumb and index finger on your other hand, you can pinch the material along the side. And I'm pinching it downward. And this is rounding his belly. So if I flip it like this, maybe we'll see how it's rounded on this side and flat on the other side because I haven't bent it yet. Also, notice how the light catches the yellow piece along the edge. It's a little bit of a shadow that wasn't there before. And you can see from the main body of Charizard how that compares to not having done that. So continue your way pinching along the edge on all sides. It's okay to use a little bit of force, don't be... So once you've finished bending all the way around, let's go ahead and do the same thing with Charizard's leg. So again, just gently pinching around the edges. If you need to, you can go over the same spot more than once. You're just trying to put a little bit of a curve on it. Same thing with his head. And for the arms, you can bend at the wrist forward and then bend the claws the opposite direction. So the wrist comes towards you and the claws bend down. Do the same thing for both of his hands. Now we're going to move on to the wing. The greenish blue is going to not cover the orange entirely. You're going to want a little strip of orange on the top. So line them up. You'll notice that there's a dashed line on the wing. I want you to bend it at that dashed line, both pieces. So we made a V. Once you've done your initial bend, go ahead and deepen the crease there. So we've made a V in the center, and then we're going to curl the tips the other way. You just want to make it look like his wings are unfurled. Same thing with the piece underneath. Okay. Now we're ready to start putting everything together. So go ahead and grab your little adhesives. We're going to start by using the adhesives to attach his belly to the main part of his body. So what we are going to end up doing is taking 2 dots, placing them one on top of each other in a stack, and putting that stack right here. We're going to do the same thing again, 2 dots in a stack right here. So I'm peeling out one at a time. So I have 2 of them. I'm going to stick the sticky ends together and press for a few seconds just to make sure that the adhesive stays. Then I will peel the adhesive off one side. Place it on the back of the belly. And again, press it so we know it's holding in place. Go ahead and do the same thing a second time. So 2 dots, put the adhesives together, press and hold, peel off one side, stick it onto the belly and press again. Now we're ready to stick his belly to his body. So let's go ahead and peel off the other backing. Line up the edge. And then press and hold. Now we're going to do the same thing for other parts of his body. So let's do the head next. Again, 2 dots. Pressing and holding them together. Then I'm going to place it on the back of his head. Position his head, and then press down. I'm also going to bend these back so they look like they're coming out of his head. Okay, for his foot, we're going to use a stack of 3 dots. Because we want it to be elevated a little higher than the belly. So I have 2 dots pressed together. Peel the backing off of one. Add the third, and again press down. Peel the backing off. And place it on the back, slightly to the right of center. The reason we're doing that is because part of his foot will overlap with the belly. Also get one other dot ready to go. Peel the backing off your stack of 3. Find where you want to position the leg. And press and hold in place. Notice how it's higher than his belly. We're also going to use that other dot that you already peeled off as a spacer between his leg and his belly. So if I flip this upside down, I'm going to stick it on the back of his leg. And that adds a spacer in between. I'm peeling the backing off and adhering it down to his yellow belly so that it's going to give the piece some stability. Next, we're going to move on to his hand. And we want another stack of 2. So grab 2, press and hold together. Peel off the backing and place it towards the tip of his hand. Once you've done that, go ahead and peel off the backing from the other side. And we are going to have this hand sit above his leg and to the right of his belly. Okay. Now we're ready to move on to the wings. For the wings, we want to have one spacer between the 2 layers. So we can put a dot here, and that will help give us space. So 1 dot here. Another dot here to give us space. I'm also going to take some of my empty adhesive and snip a couple of these off because we're going to use them. And we'll actually use one right on the edge. Now we're ready to put the front of the wing on the back of the wing. So go ahead and peel off the backing on all 3 pieces. And remember, you want a little bit of orange to show on the top. Once you've found a spot that you like, go ahead and press down, and you have your wing. Now we're almost done. We're going to now use some of our adhesive to place a stack of 2 here and towards the bottom of his tail. So I just snipped 1 in half. The reason I'm using these is instead of the dots is because they have greater surface area. So it's going to provide additional stability. So I've made 2 stacks. One is stuck up here. The other I haven't attached yet. I'm going to peel the backing off the first one. I'm going to line it up on the back of Charizard first before applying the other. So we want the tail to come out of his lower body, and we want his arm to come out of his upper body. Without the foam showing. So I've decided that this position seems to make the most sense. And I can show you what that looks like on the back. Once you find the proper position, go ahead and place your other stack of foam dots on the tail where it's not going to show behind. Now we should add some depth to this tail. It has a nice curve to it, so let's work with that and bend it. So I bent the bottom part towards his leg, and then the big fat piece is being bent back towards where his wing is going to go. And then again, towards the very tip of the tail, bending that forward. Just adding some curve. Now we're ready to apply the tail. So we had, or the wing. So we had the tail and the one arm connected in one piece so we could line up where they go on the back. But now that we have them lined up, we don't need that as one piece anymore. In fact, it's in the way of our wing, so I'm snipping it off in order to make room for our wing. We want to position the wing such that the flame is about in the midpoint. You don't want your wing up too high. You don't want your wing down too low. You want it so that the flame is in the center of it. So we're going to use some adhesive to do that. So put a few pieces of adhesive on, find the position of the wing, then mix it so that the flame is in the middle of the tail. And then go ahead and press down. And there you have them. All that's left to do now is put them on the background. You want to make sure that you save some space along the edges, about 1/8 of an inch, because the frame has a lip on it. We also want him to pop a little from the background. So we can do that by, again, using some adhesives to bring him forward. What we will do is we will put a stack of adhesive 2 high right here, and a stack of adhesive 5 high right here. For the stack of 2, if you have enough leftover foam left, you can use 2 large pieces. Otherwise, just use singles. For the stack of 5, use singles. So I'm going to do the smaller stack first and stick the 2 ends together. And I put it on the back of him. Then take your stack of 5, one more, forgot to peel one edge off. There we go. Now just one more. Okay. Stack of 5 on the back side, stack of 2 on the wing. Peel those last 2 backings off. Line them up. And press into place. And there you have it. You're all done.